Jon Stewart has become a crucial figure in the world of comedy and politics as well. Stewart is a big critic of a new administration, but he also frequently criticizes the Biden administration as well. And since Biden will leave soon, he is now making few choices that Stewart disagrees with. And Jon Stewart explained how wrong this latest decision from the Biden administration was. With that, his reaction to Democrats who tried to defend Biden was also impressive. So let's explain everything. So Jon Stewart revealed his opinion on X about some decisions that the Biden administration is making. Stewart also commented about how the transition from President Biden to President-elect Trump is underway and how this is a little chaotic period. And during this transitional period, Stewart didn't like Biden's decision to pardon Hunter. And it all got worse because of Joe Biden's statement that said, "No one is above the law," originally shared in May as a critique of Donald Trump, and it has resurfaced in a new context. This came after Biden issued a pardon for his son Hunter Biden, who was convicted of federal gun charges and tax evasion. Fact-checkers flagged the post, noting that on December 1st, 2024, President Biden pardoned Hunter for crimes spanning nearly 11 years, from January 1st, 2014 to December 1, 2024. A community-generated note now accompanies Biden's post, highlighting this act and raising questions about its implications. And in a recent episode, Jon Stewart tackled this thorny issue of President Biden's decision to pardon Hunter Biden, taking aim at both Democrats' moral high ground and the inevitable Republican backlash. Stewart noted that Biden's move, while legally within his rights, starkly contrasted with his previous pledges. The problem is, the rest of the Democrats made Biden's pledge to not pardon Hunter the foundation of their defense of America, this grand experiment, Stewart remarked, highlighting the challenges Democrats now face in reconciling their rhetoric with reality. And responding to Democrats who tried to defend this decision, Stewart said, "And now look at the dance Democrats have to do." The pardon, which Stewart mockingly called sweeping, covered offenses Hunter has committed or may have committed, leaving him to quip, "I didn't know pardons could cover crimes you may have committed in any of the Earths in the multiverse." Stewart observed, "At every turn, Democrats keep getting caught creating a purity test for a system they can't seem to pass themselves." He linked the pardon to broader frustrations, from Biden's handling of classified documents to shifting policies on immigration, painting a picture of a party struggling to align its ideals with its actions. And this shows that Jon Stewart did not hold back from criticizing Democrats. However, this is not the first time when Jon Stewart was honest and said what he thought about political situation. Because there were a lot of times when Stewart said something that probably was not popular and not everyone agreed with. But he said because he thought that was right. For example, in 2020, during the appearance on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, Stewart admitted that President Joe Biden wasn't initially his top choice for president, preferring candidates like Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren. He expressed skepticism about Biden's folksy persona, calling it a shtick he wasn't particularly fond of. However, Stewart shared that his perspective on Biden shifted after watching him on Colbert's show and observing him in other settings. However, Stewart increased his criticism in 2021. That's when Jon Stewart shared his thoughts on the challenges facing American democracy. Speaking on CNN's State of the Union with Jake Tapper, Stewart expressed concern about the threats to democracy, but also emphasized that the nation still has an opportunity to address these challenges under the Biden administration. "It's bracing sometimes to hear the reality of people's lives in other countries," he noted, adding that democracy isn't guaranteed and requires active effort to preserve. Using a metaphor, Stewart compared the situation to the ending of A Christmas Story, saying, "It's Christmas Day. Oh my God, that's great. I still have time." Like, we still have time. And about how Biden administration was dealing with these issues, Stewart reflected on democracy's complexity, pointing out both its strength and vulnerability. "The messiness of democracy is oftentimes maybe one of its greatest weak points," he remarked. Also, Jon Stewart voiced a strong critique of how media coverage was failing to uphold democratic values when they were reporting about Biden or Trump, focusing particularly on the role it plays in either supporting or eroding a civil society. He expressed frustration that the media, rather than reinforcing the active participation of citizens, often encouraged apathy and sensationalized divisive topics, especially when they were talking about president. Stewart was clear about his belief that civic engagement was essential, stating, "I think democracy dies with apathy, the active participation of citizens." In 2023, Jon Stewart didn't make it clear if he was running for a president in 2024 or supporting President Joe Biden in the 2024 election. And there were a lot of people who thought that instead of Biden, Stewart was the one who should have been running for the president. For example, Howard Stern believed Jon Stewart would easily win if he ran for president and encouraged him to consider a White House run. On his SiriusXM show, Stern suggested Stewart as the ideal Democratic candidate if President Biden decided not to seek re-election. "Jon Stewart is the guy," Stern said, praising him as incredibly smart, thoughtful, and skilled at handling debates. He also highlighted Stewart's wit and communication abilities, adding, "He would work tirelessly to be a great president." However, in an interview, Stewart had an intriguing answer when Kara Swisher asked if he had considered running for office. He replied, "It's sort of like when you get in a car and the one driver's drunk, and you're like, 'Did you ever think about taking the wheel?' You're like, 'Yeah, I did.'" Stewart's increasing frustration with politics, including the Democratic Party, came from his criticisms of their views on free speech and democracy. In early 2024, with the presidential election just 4 months away, Jon Stewart argued that there was still time for Democrats to reconsider their strategy. Stewart's remarks came as calls grew for President Joe Biden to step aside following a poor debate performance against Donald Trump. This performance had caused many prominent Democrats to question Biden's ability to handle a second term. On the June 8th episode of The Daily Show, Stewart said, "Donald Trump wasn't the only challenge to our democracy. A stagnant system that ignored voter concerns and failed to adapt to new issues also weakened trust in the government." He added, "Telling people to get on board or shut up wasn't exactly an inspiring message for a democracy," criticizing Biden's refusal to step down in favor of a new candidate. As of now, in 2024, Jon Stewart responded to the news of Musk being appointed by President-elect Donald Trump to co-chair the newly established Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. In this role, Musk is tasked with leveraging his expertise in technology and operational optimization to streamline government processes, reduce waste, and enhance transparency, as a vocal advocate for efficiency and accountability. And Stewart talked about the challenges Democrats face when agreeing with the other side on certain topics. He pointed out how people react strongly when Democrats agree with Musk on issues. Stewart added, "But if you say something like that, people pile on. They question how you can agree with Musk or RFK Jr. on anything. It's the same with Elon Musk. He points out waste in the government, and we agree because we've been saying that for years. But then it's like, how could you? How dare you?" It's an interesting reaction. Despite facing criticism, Stewart remains resolute and unyielding, steadfastly standing by his convictions. He approaches opposition not as a deterrent, but as an opportunity to reaffirm his beliefs, demonstrating a commitment to authenticity over appeasement. His unapologetic stance underscores his confidence in his perspective, signaling a refusal to compromise his principles for the sake of approval or consensus. And that's it for today.